Hey, what's up, guys? This is Alex here. We're just going to be showing you 10 tips and tricks to become a better jungle and help you get platinum rank, which I think is pretty achievable. Obviously, this video isn't made for someone who is super high rank, but you could obviously take away something from it. I myself peaked at Emerald 1, one game away from Diamond 4, so pretty much high Emerald, low Diamond MMR. Again, nothing crazy, but this is just from my experiences and to help out players who are lower ranked. So, getting into it, let's start off. Tip number 1, slash mute all. Seriously, laners' pings are more of a con than a pro and can easily influence you to make the incorrect decision. Every laner would love to have you sit and camp their lanes. Is it realistic though? Of course not. Also, as a jungle, you'll get flamed regardless of how you play. There's no need to flame or debate others mid-game as you lose focus. So just mute all. 2. Stop mentally or verbally blaming others. If you shift blame and responsibility towards others, you lack accountability for yourself and have already failed the mission of getting better. It's more common for players to play for years and years and stay at the same rank because they would rather blame others and they have no real motivation to take account, improve their own gameplay, and rank up. At any skill level, a player will make plenty of mistakes over the course of 20 to 40 minutes, so don't try and take the moral high ground because you have more farm, more kills, or less deaths than those you are blaming. The last part of this crucial point is that it's your own responsibility to win your own game, not your teammates to carry you. Even if you play a near perfect game and lose, relax, because it won't happen often and you can't win them all. Learn to communicate with your team through pings. They are so underrated and many players don't utilize this feature enough. Even if you did the mute all command, your team can still see your pings. When you see the other jungler on the minimap about to gank your laner, don't just let them die because your laner probably isn't staring at the map like you should be. Give them 1 or 2 danger pings on the minimap and you did your job. If you're about to gank a lane, use the assist me or on my way ping to have your laner set up and react to your gank. If not, your laner will probably not be ready and you may want to blame them for not coming to your gank. So you have control over that. If you have 2 teams face each other of the same skill level and one team is good at pinging and the other doesn't ping at all, I can tell you that the win rate difference between the two would be pretty lopsided. You were the unofficial leader and the shot caller of your team, so learn to play like one and communicate via pings. 4. Increase your map HUD size. The default map size is way too small. Experiment with what you are comfortable with, but I would not recommend anything below 75, and I personally play with it maxed out at 100. This leads me to my next point that may be one of the most important tips on this list. Tip number 5. Stop staring at your camps when you farm. The situational awareness of what's actually going on of the map of lower elo junglers may be the biggest contributor of losses. You should be looking at the minimap a majority of the game, especially when you're farming. When a new piece of information appears, you have to move your camera and be ready to react to it quickly if needed. A quick example, the enemy mid is passed through your ward and is rotating to the bottom lane. As soon as you see the enemy mid laner on the minimap, you need to hover your camera over them. At the very least, you should be looking at the health and then more advanced what items they have. You need to look at your bot lane's positioning. Does the enemy mid plan on diving? Can my bot lane survive? Is it worth instant rotating? If not, how can I punish the enemy mid laner for leaving? These are the questions you have to ask yourself. However, when you don't see it, you're not able to ask yourself those vital questions. If you're not constantly looking at the map and seeing what's going on, you are AFK jungling and will not be able to make any plays yourself or counter the enemy jungler's plays. 6. Champion pool. Everyone has a different sized pool of champions they're comfortable climbing ranked with. Your champion pool shouldn't be too large or too small. One-tricking a champion is a great way to climb, however, it may not always be ideal to play that champion due to your team comp or the enemy's team comp. I would recommend 2 to 4 champions in your pool that you could play efficiently. You may really like playing tanks, or you may really like playing assassins, but at least one champion in your pool should fill a different type of role for your team. So if you really like playing tanks, maybe have one assassin or someone who can reliably do damage, vice versa. Also, if your team is fully AP in champ select, you should typically look to play an AD champion, fill that gap. Again, vice versa. 7. Vision control. Vision is a complex topic and one of the most important elements of League. It's what separates high and low elo players, not only having a denying vision, but knowing how to play around it to track, protect, and put pressure on the enemies. Go look up a vision guide on YouTube if you need more help with that. I would highly recommend it. I would recommend Stealth Ward over Oracle Lens, even for ganking junglers, since placing vision isn't as complex as knowing when to scan and where to deny it. Try to have one control ward on you at all times. It's only 75 gold and they pay for themselves hugely. If you're tired of your team dying, ward early for them, and again, when the enemy jungler comes, you can ping them off. 8. Solo invading / starting on their camps level 1. While there's some specific times where early invades can be beneficial, they're typically high risk, high reward plays. And you should typically seek to avoid taking risk early, as an early death will set you way back. If you're going to invade before the 4-minute mark, come up with a plan of attack before invading. When you early invade, your intentions should always be a kill. If you like an aggressive style of jungling and like invading, make sure you are at least on the correct champion. Strong early game champions that can invade include Rengar, Trundle, Shaco, Nocturne, and Graves, to name a few. Weak early game junglers that are susceptible to invades include Evelynn, Shyvana, Yi, and Karthus. Again, I'd recommend maybe looking something up on YouTube if for invading, but there are multiple things you need to take into account, and if you invade willy-nilly on the wrong champion, you are setting yourself up to lose the game before the game even began. Also, on the flip side, if you play someone weak and the enemy jungler is strong, always assume they will invade and ward accordingly. 9. Stop forcing, start playing slower and more reactionary. Too often I see players trying to force a gank, objective, or fight on the map instead of taking guaranteed XP and gold from your camps. The more you show on the map, the more predictable and punishable you become. Many times in trying to make a play, the other jungler or other lanes who on their team who are missing, you didn't account for in your decision, and it ends up backfiring. The best time to look for a play is after you farmed all your camps. You have roughly 30 seconds to a minute, just depending on what's going on, of free time. You could look to, again, do an objective, ward for your laners, gank for your laners, and that's the best time to do it. Jungling is all about efficiency. You shouldn't have to chase kills. When you're a good jungler, they should appear right near you. While farming isn't as sexy as having a high KDA, it's always safer and more reliable to turn farming into kills rather than kills to substitute farming. The only exception to this is the later the game goes, the less farming matters. If you have a huge gold lead on your opponent, you need to actually use that and take fights to push that advantage. Also, if it's 40 or 50 minutes, everyone's typically full build, you shouldn't be farming anymore. Tip 10. Find your win condition and don't gank losing lanes. As the game develops, you should identify your win condition, particularly when mid-game arrives around the 10 to 15 minute mark, depending on how quickly the game has evolved. Ask yourself what lanes or champions are strong and will carry the game. If your top lane is 4-0 at 10 minutes, you should play through them. Ward around their lane or in the enemy jungler on the top side in this example. Look to help tower dive if the play presents itself. If they are overextended, then hover around them in a nearby bush. You should take fights with your win condition and don't take fights when your win condition isn't there. Pretty simple, but the amount of times that this happens, even in higher ranks, is crazy. If your top lane is 0-4 at 10 minutes, they are not your win condition. Don't try and save them by ganking them, because it's a sinking ship and you will likely sink with it and offer up a double kill to the enemy. Double down on your strength, as a fed champion can single-handedly carry a game. If you are the win condition, stay alive at all costs, even if it means leaving a teammate to die when they get caught out. So that was 10 tips, and that's a lot of information to take in. So how should you apply this? Well, I'll give you a summary real quick, and what you should do is try taking one or two of these points into before you go into a game and focus on them. specifically. If you try and do everything, you are not going to do anything. So if you really want to focus on having good vision this game, that's great. If you really want to focus on your map awareness this game, great. Really make it specific as far as what you're going to do each game. Obviously, you're not going to be perfect, but if you are playing with that in mind, then you will get better and you will rank up. So, just to evaluate, first off, mute all. It's best for everybody. 2, stop blaming other people. Only blame yourself. 3, use pings to communicate with your team. 4, increase your map size. 5, have a diverse champion pool, but ideally main somebody. 6, stop staring at your camps when you farm. Make sure you're moving your camera and you're getting information as soon as it's presented to you. 7, vision control. Make sure you are warding. Make sure you are buying control wards. 8, don't invade unless you know what you're doing. 9, stop forcing. Play slower. Allow the game to come to you and punish the enemy jungler for making a stupid mistake, which you will. 10, find your win condition. Play around who's fed and avoid those feeders on your team.